All right, so we've gotten tons of messages from you guys about a topic that hits close to home for a lot of dog owners out there.
Dog ear infections?
Exactly, those troublesome ear infections.
Yeah.
And we wanted to really dig into this because it seems like it's something that just keeps coming up again and again for folks.
Okay.
We're going to take a deep dive today and go beyond just the surface level stuff.
Yeah.
And really try to understand why these things happen and, more importantly, what we can do about them.
Absolutely.
So we're looking at a bunch of blog excerpts that you guys sent our way, which give us a really great starting point, I think.
Yeah, they do.
So we're going to explore those underlying causes, how to spot those early signs,
Yep.
how to prevent them, especially for those floppy-eared pups out there,
Yes.
and the different treatments that are available. And we'll even touch on whether it's more common for one ear or both to be affected.
Right.
So by the end of this, you'll have a much better grasp on this whole ear infection thing and hopefully feel more confident about dealing with it if it pops up. So tell me what sparked your interest in this deep dive in particular.
Well, it's such a common issue.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like you go to the vet and that's like the one thing that they always say.
Right.
Oh, your dog has an ear infection.
Exactly.
And so I think it's just something that's on everyone's minds, and it's really important to understand what's going on and how to prevent it.
Yeah. Is your own dog dealing with any ear discomfort or?
Knock on wood, she has been very lucky so far.
That's awesome.
But I think just as a responsible pet owner, it's something that I'm always kind of keeping an eye out for.
Absolutely.
Because I know how common it is.
Yeah, and the sources really highlight that it is like a super frequent health concern for dogs.
It is.
So let's jump into it. I mean, the first thing is why do these things happen?
Yeah, what's so fascinating is there are so many different things that can cause ear infections in dogs.
Right.
It's rarely just one single thing.
Okay.
The blog excerpts talk about bacteria and yeast overgrowth as being like the most common culprits.
Okay, so just to clarify, all dogs have a certain amount of bacteria and yeast in their ears naturally, right?
Exactly. It's like a delicate balance,
Yeah.
There's a healthy amount of these microorganisms that live in the ear canal normally without causing any problems.
Gotcha. So it's not about the presence, it's about when they kind of take over.
Exactly. It's when that balance is disrupted that things start to go wrong.
Okay.
The sources also talk about allergies being a major trigger.
Okay.
Both food and environmental allergies.
Right.
And basically what happens is those allergies cause inflammation in the ear canal.
So the allergies kind of set the stage in a way.
They do. They really do. Because a healthy ear has natural defenses.
Right.
It's got ways of keeping things clean and balanced. But when you introduce allergies, whether it's from something they're eating or something in their environment, it triggers this inflammation.
Right.
It's like it weakens the ear's defenses.
I see.
And often it increases moisture and even changes the pH balance inside the ear. So it's basically creating this perfect environment for bacteria and yeast to multiply out of control.
Oh, so it's like a chain reaction almost.
It is. It really is.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then we have those tiny little critters, ear mites.
Oh, yeah.
I remember those being a really big deal, especially with puppies.
You're right. They are more common in puppies and younger dogs.
Yeah.
But they can affect dogs of any age, and basically they're these microscopic parasites
Okay.
that live in the ear canal, and they cause all sorts of problems.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, they're incredibly itchy.
I can imagine.
So dogs will be constantly scratching and pawing at their ears.
Right.
And you might also see this distinctive dark discharge.
Oh, yeah, like coffee grounds or something.
Exactly. It looks kind of like coffee grounds.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty sure sign of ear mites.
Okay.
But the real problem is that the irritation they cause can actually make the ear canal more vulnerable to secondary bacterial or yeast infections.
Oh, so it's like a double whammy?
It's like they pave the way for other problems.
Right.
So it's really important to get those ear mites treated quickly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's move on to something a little less creepy, moisture. Seems like all that fun our dogs have splashing around in the water can actually backfire sometimes.
It definitely can. Water that gets trapped in the ear canal, whether it's from swimming or bathing or even just living in a humid climate,
Right.
can create that perfect, warm, moist environment that bacteria and yeast just love.
Yeah, it's kind of like leaving a wet towel in the laundry basket.
It is. It's just asking for trouble.
For sure. And then there are the everyday hazards of being a dog, you know?
Oh, yeah.
My dog's always got his nose in the grass and seems to attract all sorts of debris.
I know what you mean. Foreign objects like grass seeds, dirt, little bugs.
Right.
They can all find their way into the ear canal
And cause problems.
and cause problems. They can cause irritation and inflammation directly.
Okay.
And then the body's natural response to try to fight off these invaders can sometimes lead to an infection.
Oh,
Plus, those foreign objects can also act as a physical barrier,
oh.
wrapping moisture inside.
Like blocking the airflow.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And the sources also mentioned underlying health conditions?
Right.
That's not something that like immediately springs to mind when you think about ear problems?
You're right. It's not always the first thing people think of.
Right.
But certain health conditions can actually make dogs more prone to ear infections.
Such as?
Well, for example, hypothyroidism,
Okay.
which is where the thyroid gland doesn't produce enough hormones.
Right.
It can sometimes weaken the immune system,
Uh-huh.
making the dog more susceptible to infections in general, including ear infections.
I see.
And then there are autoimmune diseases,
Okay.
where the body's own immune system mistakenly attacks healthy tissues.
Oh, wow.
And that can lead to chronic inflammation throughout the body, including in the ears.
So it's like their own body is working against them.
It's like their own body is fighting itself,
Wow.
which can make them much more vulnerable to infections.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so if your dog is getting repeated ear infections, it's worth talking to your vet about the possibility of an underlying health condition.
Definitely. So we've talked about all the different things that can trigger these ear infections,
Right.
but let's get to like a really practical question here.
Okay.
Is it usually just one ear that gets infected, or can it be both?
That's a great question. And the answer is it can be either.
Okay.
You might only notice symptoms in one ear,
Right.
but it's actually pretty common for both ears to be affected,
Really?
especially if the underlying cause is something that affects the whole body, like allergies,
Ah,
or if there are chronic moisture issues going on in both ears,
I see.
or like we just discussed, if there's an autoimmune condition.
Gotcha. So it's always a good idea to check both ears.
Exactly, even if you only think one is bothering them.
Makes sense. So what are the signs that should make us think, oh, there might be something going on with their ears?
Okay, well, one of the most obvious signs is head shaking. If your dog is constantly shaking their head or tilting it to one side,
Uh-huh.
it's usually a sign that something is bothering them.
Right.
They might also be scratching or pawing at their ears more than usual.
Okay.
And if you look closely at the ear canal, you might see redness or swelling.
And what about like a smell? Is there usually a telltale odor?
Oh yeah, an unpleasant odor coming from the ear is a big red flag.
Yeah.
You might also see discharge,
Okay.
which can vary in color. It could be brown, yellow, or even bloody in some cases.
Oh, wow.
And of course, if your dog reacts with pain or sensitivity when you touch their ears,
Right.
that's a definite sign that something's wrong.
Okay, the sources also mentioned something about balance issues in more severe cases.
Right, that can happen if the infection spreads to the inner ear.
The inner ear.
Yeah, which plays a really important role in balance.
Oh, I see.
So if the inner ear is affected, you might see your dog stumbling or having trouble walking straight.
Okay.
They might even seem dizzy or disoriented.
Wow, that sounds pretty serious.
It's definitely a sign that you need to get to the vet right away.
For sure. Now let's talk about those adorable floppy-eared breeds,
Okay.
like Cocker Spaniels, Basset Hounds, Golden Retrievers.
Love them.
They're just so cute. But it seems like they're more prone to ear infections than other breeds.
They are, and it all comes down to airflow.
Airflow.
Yeah, those long, floppy ears create a less ventilated environment inside the ear canal,
Mm-hmm.
so it's easier for moisture and heat to get trapped in there,
Right.
which, as we talked about earlier, creates that perfect breeding ground for bacteria and yeast.
So it's like their ears are a little sauna?
It's kind of like that, yeah.
Not ideal.
Not ideal at all.
So for those of us who have those floppy-eared pups, what can we do to prevent these infections from happening?
Well, the blog excerpts had some really great tips.
Okay.
First and foremost, regular ear cleaning is super important.
Okay.
Using a cleaning solution that's specifically made for dogs
Mm.
and approved by your vet,
Right.
that will help to gently remove any wax, debris, and excess moisture.
Okay.
And it's important to use the right technique.
Right.
You don't want to insert anything too deep into the ear canal.
Yeah. You could cause damage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your vet can show you the best way to do it.
And drying their ears properly after they get wet is important too, right?
Absolutely. Especially after swimming or a bath.
Right.
You want to make sure those ears are nice and dry.
So just pat them with a towel.
Yeah, patting them with a soft towel is a good start.
Okay.
Some people also use a hairdryer on a low cool setting,
Oh, okay.
but you have to be very careful with that.
Right, you don't want to burn them or scare them.
Exactly. Keep the hairdryer at a safe distance
Okay.
and make sure your dog is comfortable with it.
Makes sense. The sources also mentioned grooming
Yes,
as part of ear care.
right.
What's the connection there?
Well, a lot of floppy-eared breeds have a lot of hair growth inside their ears,
Uh-huh.
and that hair can trap moisture and block airflow.
Oh, right.
So regular grooming to trim that excess hair can really help to keep their ears healthy.
So you take them to a groomer for that.
A groomer who's experienced with those breeds can do a great job,
Okay.
or your vet can show you how to do it safely at home.
Gotcha. And then there's the whole allergy thing.
Right.
It sounds like managing their allergies is also key to preventing ear problems.
It is because, like we talked about, allergies can trigger that inflammation in the ears,
Right.
which sets the stage for infection.
So if you can get their allergies under control,
Exactly.
you're less likely to have ear issues.
That's the goal.
Okay. And the blog also recommended doing weekly ear checks.
Yes.
That seems like a good habit for any dog owner, really.
It is. It only takes a few minutes.
Right.
Just take a look inside their ears,
Uh-huh.
see if there's any redness, discharge, an unusual odor, or a buildup of wax.
Okay.
And if you catch things early on, you can often prevent a full-blown infection from developing.
So it's all about being proactive.
Absolutely. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
That's for sure. So let's say our dog does end up with an ear infection despite our best efforts.
Okay.
What are the typical treatment options?
Well, the first and most important thing is to see your vet.
Okay.
Don't try to treat it yourself.
Right.
Because a vet can accurately diagnose what kind of infection it is,
Uh-huh.
whether it's bacterial, fungal, or even related to ear mites,
Okay.
and they can prescribe the right treatment.
Gotcha. So what does treatment usually involve?
Well, often the vet will start by cleaning the ears really thoroughly
Okay.
to remove any debris, wax, and discharge
Right.
that could interfere with the medication.
So it's like starting with a clean slate.
Exactly.
Okay. And then what?
Then they'll usually prescribe medicated ear drops or ointments.
Okay.
And those medications can contain different things depending on the type of infection.
Right.
They might have antibiotics to fight bacteria,
Uh-huh.
antifungals for yeast infections,
Okay.
and often anti-inflammatories to reduce swelling and pain.
And in more severe cases.
Yeah, in more severe cases, or if there's an underlying health issue contributing to the infections,
Right.
the vet might also prescribe oral medications.
Okay. Like pills.
Yeah, like antibiotics, or even a short course of steroids.
Gotcha. And like we talked about earlier, it's not just about treating the infection itself.
Right.
It's also about addressing any underlying causes.
Exactly,
That-
like those allergies.
If a dog keeps getting ear infections over and over,
Right.
the vet will want to figure out why.
Yeah, get to the root of the problem.
Exactly, and develop a long-term management plan.
Okay.
And even after the infection is gone,
Mm-hmm.
the vet will probably recommend that you continue cleaning your dog's ears regularly at home.
Right, like as a preventative measure.
Exactly.
Okay, so the blog excerpts also had a really helpful FAQ section.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of reinforced a lot of what we've talked about, like the most common causes being bacteria, yeast, allergies, ear mites, moisture, foreign objects.
Right.
And it also confirmed that dogs can get infections in both ears.
Especially if they have allergies or chronic health conditions.
Exactly.
And it reiterated the importance of those preventative measures for floppy-eared dogs.
Yes.
Cleaning, drying, grooming, managing allergies.
So it's about staying on top of it.
For sure. There was also a point about home remedies,
Okay.
and the blog really cautioned against using them
Yeah.
and stressed the importance of going to the vet.
It's so important.
Why is that such a big deal?
Well, some home remedies might provide temporary relief,
Okay.
but they often don't actually treat the underlying infection.
Right.
In fact, using the wrong home remedy could actually make the problem worse.
Really?
Yeah, it could mask the symptoms or delay proper treatment,
Oh, I see.
and that could lead to more serious complications down the line.
So it's not worth the risk.
It's really not. It's always best to err on the side of caution and see your vet.
Makes sense. And the last part of the blog really emphasized the importance of seeking help right away.
Yeah.
It's easy to think, oh, it's just a minor thing, it'll clear up on its own.
Right.
But delaying treatment can make things a lot worse for your dog.
It can cause them more pain and discomfort,
Right.
and it can also increase the risk of complications.
So if you see any of those signs,
Yeah, any of the signs we talked about,
don't wait.
get them to the vet as soon as possible.
Definitely. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what are the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember about dog ear infections?
All right. Well, first off, Ear infections are really common in dogs,
Yeah.
and they can be caused by a bunch of different things.
Right.
But the most common culprits are bacteria and yeast.
Uh-huh.
Second, it's super important to be able to recognize the early signs,
Okay.
like head shaking, scratching, discharge, bad odor,
Right.
because the sooner you catch it, the better.
Exactly.
Third, if you have a floppy-eared dog, you need to be extra vigilant about prevention.
Okay.
Clean those ears regularly, dry them thoroughly, groom them properly, and manage any allergies they have.
And last but not least,
Last but not least, if you suspect an ear infection, don't mess around.
go to the vet.
Go to the vet. They're your best resource for getting your furry friend back on track.
Awesome advice. So that brings us to the end of our deep dive on dog ear infections.
Yeah.
But it leaves us with a really interesting thought.
What's that?
We've seen how understanding the specific characteristics of different dog breeds,
Like floppy ears.
yeah, like floppy ears,
Yeah,
can really make a difference in their health.
absolutely.
So it makes you wonder what other seemingly small details about our pets
Right.
might be impacting their well-being.
Yeah, their breed predispositions, their habits, their environment,
That exact.
all connected.
It is so we encourage you to keep exploring these nuances and
Yeah.
keep learning and keep being those awesome pet parents that you are.
And keep those ears clean.
And keep those ears clean.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.